and welcome to another episode of Conversations on Purpose Edition. You probably missed me, but today I am so happy to be back. I have a wonderful guest with me today, and I would love for you all to meet Mr. Donald Moses. Welcome to our wonderful episode that we try to put together to help educate and share information with women and families and men, whoever across the globe. And so let me give you a little introduction as to who this wonderful person is sitting next to me. So Donald Moses is a entrepreneur. First of all, let me tell you that first up. But he works in the financial services, which encompasses economic development and finance. And so he's entered into this entrepreneurship, and he opened up his mortgage brokerage company to encourage people like me, like you, to own their own. Let me repeat that: to own your own. All right. And so he is really centered around civic engagement, and that became a priority for him. And he's presently the chairman of Hamden's Economic Development Commission. So help me welcome Mr. Moses. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Good to have you. I'm so happy that you took me up on the offer here to talk to us about financial services and everything that entails all of that. And so I'm excited for the viewers to learn a little bit more about owning their own. I love that phrase there. So with that said, let's dive right into it and talk to me a little about what drove you in this direction. How did you get here into financial services?
Well, I've always been interested in business and going to college. I majored in business and minored in finance.
Mm-hmm.
And it was after college that I actually stumbled in, I guess I can call it stumbling into the economic development and real estate aspect of it. You know, to be able to develop homes, build homes, deal with businesses, support established business plans, helping communities to enhance themselves.
Nice.
In the midst of all of that, you come to meet the actual people, the person behind the individual who is conducting the business. So being able to then focusing on helping people to fulfill their goals and accomplish their dreams um, was a was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.
Let's remind everyone how long you've been doing this.
Since 1979.
That is a long time. And so during that time, you've probably seen the ebb and flow and the ups and downs. Can you talk to me a little about why is it so important now for us to own our own? I mean, it's probably been important a long time now, but kind of share with me the journey of when you started to now.
Well, the essential concept of it all for me was to try to get people to understand the value of owning their own. It's like, you would talk to people about getting an education,
Mm-hmm.
a post high school, whatever that may be, whether it's college, trade school, whatever it may be, but post education. Once you accomplish something and you've been able to retain it, no one can take it from you. Right? So to encourage folks to be able to understand the value of real estate, to be able to understand the value of business, even those who wanted to own their own, get into entrepreneurship themselves,
Mm-hmm.
understand the value with that. One of the things that I used to convey to many of my clients is that, you know, your home can actually be, your futuristic piggy bank.
Mm.
You know, if you understand how to structure things, then the equity in your home can allow you to catapult into building wealth.
Mm. Nice. Thank you for that. And so the home is a one example. What other examples would you start to tell your clients around building your own? What are some other things?
As a part of financial services, our primary concern was trying to assist and encourage our clients to build their future, stabilize their future,
Mhm.
whether that's building their own financial wealth through whether real estate or, they ultimately want to own their own business, whatever that may be,
Mhm.
being able to help them do that. Um, it was understanding the individual and who they are,
Mhm.
what they would like, where they want to go.
Mhm.
And there wasn't a blanket response. It's more of an individual response based upon the desire and the persona of that individual. What we did also was basically try to encourage folks to understand the value of insurance, life insurance.
Mhm.
And life insurance, was a lot more than simply the death benefits.
Mhm.
Life insurance has living benefits as well. So being able to teach folks,
Mhm.
that, you can use a life insurance policy while you're alive to can help build,
Mhm.
wealth for the future. It just doesn't generate benefits upon one's death.
Yeah. That is an eye opener for me because a lot of the misconception in my mind is that you're told, well, this is really what it's supposed to be for. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that you're mentioning that there's living benefits to a life insurance. I don't think we have that mindset, right, to think about
Right,
it in that fashion. Yeah.
right,
So that's great education already by itself, that knowing how to look at your life insurance a little bit differently.
right.
And you said to help build that legacy,
Absolutely.
that those add that value to your repertoire, your life,
Hmm.
is also so talk to me a little bit about, I guess, your expertise. Is it the real estate, or what is your expertise?
Core of it is real estate and business development.
Mm-hmm.
So real estate development and business development.
What would you say to someone like me or anyone who's listening? How would
Mhm.
I get started? Like, what is the basic foundational understanding that I need to have, or what do I need to do? Or is that a loaded question?
No, 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 no. I'm trying to figure out how do I answer it in its simplest form. It is getting an individual to understand. Well, first of all, trying to identify what they want to do.
Okay.
I've had clients who wanted to be a real estate mogul, wanted to just build an empire
Mm.
in their mind, whatever that is defined as, but in their mind, they want to build an empire. It's basically helping them to understand what is real estate and, how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean necessarily by understanding real estate law, just the value of real estate, owning property
Mm-hmm.
to be able to teach them the simplicity of owning property. Once you own it, what do you do with it?
Yeah.
You know, build an empire. You purchase one. How do you purchase a second? How do you get one to work for you to buy four more?
Oh.
And things such as that. So be able to help them to understand that,
Mm-hmm.
walk them through the process.
Mm-hmm.
And once they have picked up a couple of one through four, you know, um, identify at what stage then are you ready to move on to the next level, which is commercial, which is a
Okay.
completely different animal.
Yeah.
But it depends upon what their needs are, what their desires are.
Right. Right.
Not everyone wants to go that route. Someone wants to purchase their primary residence, wherever they are in life at that particular time. Something that they may want to stay in for 2 or 3 years and then move to something else, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever the case may be. So again, it depends upon the individual's needs.
Okay. So the first thing is, what do I want to do?
Hmm.
And then I can explore my options, and
Exactly.
because the opportunity's there.
It is. It is. It
But
is.
we don't know that. We don't realize. Now, when you say buy multiple properties, I always think, am I fixing these properties up? What am I
No.
doing? I think of like HGTV and,
Yeah.
like buy properties and there's a name for it. I can't remember right now, but
Well, I like to purchase rehabs and things such as that. The big thing lately has been, buy, fix, and flip.
right, that's it. Yeah.
But it depends on the individual.
Yep.
Some folks prefer to buy, fix up, get
Mm-hmm.
what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Others don't want to be bothered with that. They just want to own it. So they just buy something that doesn't need fixing up.
Yeah.
They basically collect their rent to do whatever they have to do with it, and that's it.
Yeah.
But again, it depends upon the individual's needs.
Yeah. Oh man, wow. And so there's a lot. lot to it, and I understand why you were saying I have to think about the simplest way to
Right.
tell to say this, because it's not just get up one day and be like, oh, I want to buy a property. There's so much more behind that. Yeah.
There is, but the thing that can be paralyzing is that one going into this with false expectation,
Mm-hmm.
because unless you understand or at least have an idea of what's required, you'll go into it false expectation, which one can easily get disappointed very
Mm-hmm.
quickly. And, the negative aspect of that feeling can discourage you from anything else. You know, um, Listen, the summation of all of this, owning real estate, owning a business, whatever, it's all about an individual want to create their independence.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about independence.
Mm-hmm.
But we fail to realize sometimes that independence requires certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Independence requires, first of all, patience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
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 And with independence, one has to recognize that with independence will come failure.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, failure isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Failure is what builds experience.
Mm-hmm.
Experience is what builds wisdom. You know, but that's the core of why most people want to enhance
Mm-hmm.
because they're looking for independence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And independence doesn't necessarily mean, quitting their job and, whatever the case may be, but they're looking for independence in a stable sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
But there is a level of sacrifice.
oh,
Bless
excuse me.
you.
Thank you.
There's a level of sacrifice that goes into this, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so can you share a little bit about that? What kind of sacrifice? Maybe just one. Just name one. Because I know you said, there's false expectations and we got to have patience. But what do I have to do I have to give up anything?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, the sacrifice is your time. The sacrifice is can be family.
Mm.
You know, it's good to have support.
Mm-hmm.
Good to have support. If not a mate, then family members, friends. But you just think about something. You
Mm-hmm.
know, to succeed at just about anything, it
Mm-hmm.
requires a degree, if not a significant degree, but it requires a degree of selfishness.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whether you take athletes, you take business people, whatever, to master your craft requires a degree of selfishness, which means you have to submerge yourself
Mm-hmm.
into what you want to learn or what you're doing, which means, and you submerging yourself into that takes time away from your family,
Mm-hmm.
takes time away from hobbies, takes time away from, your conviction, your commitment to other things,
Mm-hmm.
not your conviction, but your commitment to other things. So yeah, it requires tremendous sacrifice,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
tremendous, but one has to create a balance, because that sacrifice is that, well, for me, you know, um, the sacrifice for me had to have been limited
Hmm.
because I needed to engage in my children's lives.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to be able to do all of the things, be it pick up from school, the sporting events, and whatever the case may be. But I needed to be there to do those things. So I can never get to that level where, it's like it requires me to just completely submerge myself
Mm-hmm.
into it.
Mm-hmm.
That was a choice I made,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
One wants to reach the pinnacle of whatever it is that they're going after, then they just full steam ahead,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Too often it can come back to haunt one,
Yeah.
So independence definitely requires sacrifice.
Yeah. That's what I'm picking up here a little bit. So let's switch gears a little bit. And you talked about your family briefly and
Mm.
raising your two children. What role did that play in your own, journey? I
Mhm.
know you mentioned briefly that that's a part of the sacrifice. That's a choice you made. But what else would you add to that? Just so our viewers can get a very big picture of this is not for someone who's just, oh, let me do this just, but I wake up today and I want to do this, right?
Yes. It is not for the faint of heart.
That's the word I was
What
looking
I
for.
mean by the faint of heart is someone who wants to do it when they want to, and someone feels that they can control the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work that way. Um, if you truly want to succeed or simply want to do a hobby, two totally different things.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something that you want to do as a hobby, then that's fine. But
Mm-hmm.
you still, in order to succeed at it, even as a hobby, you still must master it to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
You still must acquire the knowledge. You still must be able to uh, know how to implement all of the key factors in order to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the good thing about business is that the principles that you have to apply to business are also principles that can be applied to life in itself.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
in relationships, to be able to, understand, patience, to be able to understand, sacrifice, to be able to understand wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
You um, it provides a tremendous amount of life applicable lessons.
Mm-hmm. So how do I need to contact someone like you to get started? How do I say if okay, this sounds really good. I want to add more value and, legacy for my kids and my kids' kids, right? So do I need to get a financial advisor? Are you a financial advisor? Should I even put that word out there? How does that work?
Um, I consult.
Mm-hmm.
Someone wants to purchase real estate, commercial or residential.
Mm-hmm.
Someone wants to do a business. So I consult with helping them to do that, put that package together. But first of all, again, identifying, get to know a little bit about the individual,
Mm-hmm.
identifying what they want to do. Okay, what is it you're trying to accomplish in what you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And listen to them and, try to get a determination in terms of my recommendation for the path that they'll have to take.
Mm-hmm.
Because the path that I can recommend and the path that they'll have to take will determine on their commitment,
Mm-hmm.
will determine upon their level of sincerity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, one can be just enthused and find it exciting to do this. You know, halfway through the process, you realize that it's a lot more work than you had anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
Not only from a physical perspective, but also from an intellectual perspective. Having to learn things,
Mm-hmm.
having to step into another world, the people you will be dealing with, in putting your business together, whatever your skill set is, whatever the craft is, whatever the passion may be,
Mm-hmm.
you want to open a business for that. You know, the people who you will be dealing with and running your business, it's a different world from the folks you deal with on your regular life. It's a different world from the people you deal with on the job.
Mm-hmm.
So the things that you'll have to know, the methods, the approaches,
Mm-hmm.
are just completely different.
And is that from a textbook? Or do I just need to, how do I gain the knowledge?
The textbooks, you can begin with the textbook. Textbooks will give you the theory. I do believe,
Mm-hmm.
just like any other thing in life,
Mm-hmm.
okay? If someone wants to learn something or someone wants to do something, I firmly believe
Mm-hmm.
that they should build a library.
Okay.
You know, you buy your books, you educate yourself, because that level of self-education will only be to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you educate yourself on what you would like to do, so that when you go out and you're actually ready to implement,
Mm-hmm.
you can have an intelligent conversation on the subject.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going out to search for information or resources, you at least know what it is that you want. You
Mm-hmm.
know what questions to ask, because by building the library, you have familiarized yourself with it. So it makes the growth and educational process that much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to bring you back to the word sacrifice for a second because as you're talking, the word that keeps coming up in my mind is also risk. Now,
Hmm.
would you say sacrifice and risk are similar or is there a difference? Because if there's a difference, I want to know is there a risk, and or am I still speaking the same language of sacrifice?
Um, I guess one can say that there is a similarity in it, um, but that similarity depends upon the degree of risk.
Mm,
Okay.
mm-hmm,
Um, it may be, the sacrifice doesn't necessarily have to be a risk.
mm-hmm,
As we typically define risk, we, often put it comes with a negative connotation,
mm-hmm,
right? But it's the degree of risk, or it's the degree of distraction,
mm,
because in many cases it isn't necessarily a risk but a distraction.
okay.
If you have your life structured in a certain way, you want to engage in a business, you're working your full-time job, you're building the family, life is the way it was yesterday, you were very happy with that. Tomorrow you now want to plan on opening a business.
Mm-hmm,
You've given yourself a time frame to do that. Okay. In order to do that, there will be a distraction of things that you'll be taken away from the comfort of yesterday in order to make this work. And one of the biggest factor will be time.
mm-hmm,
You have to put time into learning what you'd like to do, educating yourself, identifying the resources, identifying the path. That time in itself isn't necessarily a risk. I imagine that one would apply some sensibility to it. You won't just abandon everything from yesterday and leap into it. That becomes a risk,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
You create, you know, unwarranted turbulence in your family, you know? Uh, but, done with a degree of moderation, it becomes a distraction, not necessarily a risk.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, yeah, it's depend on the degree of risk.
Yeah, yeah. Because you drive around and you see so many businesses have closed down and all of that. And it could be for other factors, but that could be one of them where, like you said, false expectations a little
Hmm.
bit went in over their heads, not necessarily having that library
Hmm.
of and the tools and necessary skills that they needed to make this a successful
Hmm.
experience. And so is that where you come in, where you kind of help shepherd or guide people along so that to minimize, I don't want to set false expectation to say that if you have someone like a Moses you won't fail, but it minimizes because you have to follow through.
Right,
You have to
right,
actually
right, right.
do and try or experiment, and there's still some factor, a risk factor involved regardless.
There is. To have a professional on your team to be able to help you accomplish your goal, it minimizes the risk of failure. And what it does, it allows you to make fewer or no mistakes at the embryonic stage of things.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point you'll be given the guidance and the direction in terms of the path that you have to take. But again, patience is key. You have folks in whatever the case may be. Okay, it doesn't necessarily have to be business in aspect of life. They're so assured of what they want to do, how they want to do it. They have it all worked out in their mind, and they're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're ready to just hit the pedal, warp speed, and move forward. Right? Um, that really works out well.
Mm-hmm.
Really works out well.
Yeah.
Because if you're going that fast, you also forget to look in the rearview mirror. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you also forget to look at, what's ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so patience becomes key.
Yeah, I'm hearing a theme here, a pattern with the patience, right? So, because I'm getting excited, I'm like, oh, is this something I could do? But no, you have to actually think this through.
That's right.
Yeah, and think about not just yourself, but the impact it may have on the individuals around you and
Mhm.
things that you're currently involved in. You may have to drop something, because, like, again, going back to the word sacrifice, it's you're gonna have to give something up in order to make this dream, this whatever, flourish.
Yeah, or not necessarily give something up, but you must understand that there has to be balance,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
which means you don't necessarily have to give it up, but you must adjust.
Okay. Yeah.
You must adjust. You come home from work every day. You're home by, let's say, 6 o'clock the latest, and you've got your routine, you've got your schedule, you do with the family, and so on and so forth, and you do what you have to do, right? Now, you've got a meeting after work. You have to leave work at 4:30 rather than 5 o'clock because you've got a meeting, with a banker, or you've got to go to a seminar or a workshop, you know, to gather information in preparation for that. Now you're not getting home until 8 o'clock. Okay,
Mm.
or let's say you're conscientious enough to realize that, okay, I want to get home. I at least want to catch dinner before it ends. So
Mm-hmm.
you want to be home by like 7:30,
Yeah.
So you get home, the family's eating dinner, you can at least join them and participate in certain things. But that's a big difference from being home at 5:30,
Mm-hmm.
being able to just enjoy the comfort and relaxation of the family. So you don't necessarily have to give it up, but with an understanding of balance,
Mm-hmm.
you can make the adjustment. Now, with balance, and you can also interchange that phrase for like moderation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with balance and moderation, you have to realize that the journey that you want to take may take a little longer
Mm-hmm.
because the speed in which you'll be moving,
Mm-hmm.
okay, with balance and moderation will not be as fast.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point because sometimes we want things now.
Mhm.
And I mean now could be the next 2 years, 3 years, but some things may take even longer to see, it come to full birth,
Right,
for lack of
right.
a better word. And so we have to keep that in mind as well. What other advice would you want to share with us or leave with us, as we think about owning our own?
Um, Independence. In independence is, well, I think that one should never limit themselves.
Mm, okay.
Should not limit themselves. And depending on where you are in life, in terms of the stage of life, understanding, what you would like to do and how you would like to do it. Um, Meaning that, you must take a look at the bigger picture. You have to take a look at the bigger picture and, to see, you know, how do you get there? Um, you know, in the midst of all of this, you know, trying to build wealth through whatever path, I think one must also keep in mind that quality of life
Mm,
is the most important thing.
mm, yeah. Yeah.
You know, it doesn't make any sense, in my opinion, to make a dollar and spend to make a dollar and spend 50 cents of the dollar on aspirins.
Yeah.
It does. So, I mean, when you take the time to understand, those type of things, um, you're practically eliminating frustrations before they even begin.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting.
It doesn't matter what you're doing in terms of whether it's a business
Hmm.
or whether it's just a scope of view, in terms of one's life and what one wants to do in it.
Hmm.
Even from a career growth perspective, the same principles apply.
Hmm.
you know. But I just think that for me, and I don't know if no, well, some folks don't have the same order of priority.
Hmm.
But for me, the quality of life, you know, and listen, I can say that now. I don't think I would have said that at 30
Yeah.
or at 40.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Um, but the quality of life is just critically important.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're so right, right? If I'm a 30 something, 20 something, I want to get it. I want to,
Right.
and especially nowadays, you find that people want it now.
Right.
I mean, maybe that's always been around, but because of technology and stuff, we see it a little bit more. I'm sure back in the 60s, 70s, people wanted it now, but we just didn't know about it as
Hmm.
quickly as we do now. So while you were talking, I was thinking, so you could start this at any age.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you can become this independent or entrepreneurial path at any age.
One can, let's say one is in their 30s, they have the skill set, mid 30s, start a family, your family is young, okay? You're working, very good salary, family's doing well, okay? But you like what you're doing, and if you had something better to leave it for tomorrow, you would leave it,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
My suggestion was take that time to build. We're talking about building the library, we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about learning the process.
Mm-hmm.
So take those early stages, okay? When your 5-year-old is going to school or your 3-year-old, you've got to put the time in. Utilize that time to still apply to what you want to do and build it so that, you're on your job. Okay, you're on your job for 20 years, you know. 10 years into the job, for example, as you're building these things, you can then start, kids are older,
Mm-hmm.
kids are in school, you know, family doesn't necessarily, um, your foundation, your cornerstone, the cornerstones of your life,
Mm-hmm.
okay, don't necessarily tug at you, you know, when, at that stage of life as it did 10 years ago when the kids were young and so on and so forth. Right? So at that point, you can now actually begin the embryonic stage of your business. You can
Mm-hmm.
start some preliminary thing, depending upon what it is, you know, um, so that, you know, 20 years later, 25 years later, 30 years later, you want to retire. Okay, you retire from your primary job, and now you are well experienced
Mm-hmm.
in this business because you've used all that time to educate yourself.
Yes.
You've used all that time to
Yep.
build relationships. So when you now step into that, you're not stepping into something brand new.
Mm-hmm.
You've
Mm-hmm.
built it. So you're simply just making a change.
Mm-hmm.
And in one's opinion, based upon that's your desire, it's now a vertical change as opposed to a horizontal change.
I
So,
like that. I like that, Donald, because it was daunting on me. Like, okay, if I start this, you got to, do it now, right?
hmm
You have to finish and follow through. But there's a phased approach to this,
hmm
right? I don't have to just do it all at once. I could take the step by step, and it's all back to your original point that you made. What do I want?
hmm
And that balance. I love that. I love that balance because if I have a family now and I want a business, I shouldn't feel like I can't have
That's right.
both, but it's finding that
Right.
balance and looking realistic. Yet you have to be realistic too. Some people
hmm
aren't realistic about
Right.
what they want, and so that's why they either fail and fail miserably,
hmm
or have those false expectations again too.
Right. And one has to realize that what you're doing is building something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're building something. You can equate it to building a car. You have folks who their hobby is, cars, whether it's vintage or otherwise. But in their garage, they can break down an engine,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, take everything apart, put it back together, so on and so forth. A carpenter get out there and build cabinets from a tree. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So the point is you just have to realize that what you're doing is building something.
Yeah.
And in order to basically have a good product at a craftsman skills, it requires time. It requires patience.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. This has been very, very insightful. Any last words for our viewers? Anything else that I may not have asked, but you would like folks to know?
Listen, my only comment in reference to things like this that we have discussed is that follow your dream. Whatever it is that you want to do, there is no reason why you can't put in the time to do the research to turn a dream into reality.
Yeah.
And in the midst, have fun.
Have fun. I
Have
like
fun.
it. I like it.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Donald, for being here.
my
Thank you,
pleasure.
everyone, for tuning in and listening to these wonderful advice and tip about life and finances all in one. I hope you'll stay tuned for the next one, and I hope to see you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye.